Hello, everyone. This is Justin Croxton here once again from Private Label Passports. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about a checklist that I created that I use for myself. For me, it's a little bit more intuitive because I just kind of know what's going to sell well, what's going to do well in international markets, but also something that I think could be really helpful for anyone that's out there thinking about or want to potentially sell in a lot of these different global markets that Amazon has made available to us. So, whether you're in, any country that's out there, you can essentially sell on any of these Amazon platforms. And so part of what I decided to do was create a checklist. Some of it has been bred, or quite a bit of it actually has been bred from Mark Scott Adams and the checklist that he put together. And part of what I did is I expanded on it, made some changes, added some more things around global markets and category markets, just to have it fit a little bit more of what I think really does matter at this day and age for someone that wants to sell on Amazon on a global basis. So I'm going to just kind of walk you guys through this really quickly so you can see sort of my general thinking. And hopefully if you want to download it, you can use it for yourself as a checklist as you guys think about global markets that you potentially want to sell in. We're not going to go through every individual and single line item, but it gives you a good feel of what this essentially does. So ultimately, the checklist is here to say, all right, if you get this particular score based on all the different questions that's on here, and so these are all the different questions and the different statements, and if you get a yes for any of these statements that's on here, you're going to tally up, you're going to add yourself, 5 points or 4 points for that matter. And then at the very end, you can get a total of, let's say, 101 points is the most amount of points that you can get. And based on where your score is, that will tell you whether that product in that market or in any of the markets is a viable product that's worth going after. So here we just want to give you guys a little bit of some instructions so you kind of have a sense of what to look out for. Once again, count either 0 or the number in the column based on whether it's a yes or a no. If it's a yes, it's going to be that particular number. If it's a no, just count 0 and just move on to the next statement. So let me just kind of give you guys some of the different things that I like to think about as I'm picking different products in different markets in some of these in some of these different Amazon global markets for that matter. In this case, let's start off with the first one. National name brand does not dominate the market. For me, that's very important. It's not like I'm trying to sell a Black & Decker type of an item here because I know that they dominate a lot of the industrial product categories, if you will. So in that case, if there is not one that dominates the market, I'm going to add a 5 right here. Next one, the average sales price is between $10 and $60. That's obviously important because you don't want a product that's $8 or $5 because then your margins are way, way too thin. You want something that's going to give you at least a, let's say, in this case, a $3 to $4 per sale after inventory costs. But in this case, let's say $10 to $60. We're going to add a 5 next to that. Next one, the sales rank, which we call BSR, best selling rank, in your base market. In this case, it could be saying that if you're selling in the United States, that's your base market. If the UK is your base market, that might be another way to think about it. But in this case, the sales rank BSR in your base market is between 500 and 10,000 for at least 2 private label competitors that are relatively similar to your product target. Now think about that for a second. The reason why that's so important is because you don't want to pick a product where only one person is selling that item and that one person has like a best-selling rank of, let's say, 7,000, because that means it could be a fluke. For me, I'm not trying to take any chances. If I'm trying to build a brand, I want to go after the products that has the highest chances of doing well. And if I see that there are, like, let's say 3 competitors that have a best-selling rank between 500 and 10,000, then I know that there's going to be a chance for me to come to that dance and have a good time and play in that same space. So that's why this one out of all of them, this is a really important one for me that I like to tell people to really think about as they're picking new products in different markets and so forth. Next one, do each of the first 3 items have less than 500 reviews in the United States? And, or If in global markets, are the reviews less than 100? In this case, I would say probably UK is where you would probably get the most. UK and Germany would be where you have the most reviews, also Japan as well. So the reason why that's important is you don't want to go into a market where it's going to take you forever to get reviews and to give away product. You don't want to go through all that. So there are cases where, if I do see a few, I might use some other factors, but that's something that I look at. So if you say this one more time, do each of the first 3 items have less than 500 reviews in the US? I say yes, that is the case. You give yourself a 4. And then you move on to the next one. Do 12 of the next 17 competitors have less than 100 reviews in the US? In global markets, are the reviews less than 30? In that case, you may give yourself a 5. That's another piece that I might add to the mix as well. Going to the next one, sellers on page 1 produce a minimum aggregate 1,000 sales per month in the United States. In the global markets, the sales are a minimum of 500 sales per unit. And the way you guys can figure this out is the makers of Jungle Scout, they have a really, really good, what I personally like to call a really good tool that shows you if you have a best-selling rank, let's say a 5,000 in a category, it actually shows you the total number of sales for that particular category, for that number that you place in there. And for me, I can take, let's say a lot of the different sellers for a particular product and category, add in all their different BSRs, multiply by, let's say, 5 or 6 or however many people are on that first page for that keyword. And then I can say to myself, okay, yeah, this is definitely a good market. I give myself a 4, and then I move on to the next one. And so I told you guys, I'm not going to go through every single line item that's on here, but there are some ones that for me are very, very critical. This next one is a very important one. So in this case, the product category market has multiple keywords, at least 4 to 5 variations. And a great example that I like to use might be, let's see here. It might be like let's say not the fanny pack. We'll say the cutting boards. So a cutting board can also be a chopping board, which can also be a bamboo cutting board, which can also be a wood cutting board. So you have wood cutting board, wooden cutting boards, all these different keyword variations that can add up to some really good potential sales, because just because you rank for wood cutting boards doesn't mean you're also going to rank for wooden cutting boards. You have to work for both, which is very, very important that a lot of people really don't think about, when they're trying to rank on that first page or trying to get a lot of sales for a particular product. This next one is also very critical to me. So profit margins are greater than $4 to $5 per unit after subtracting out inventory and shipping costs. You want to utilize the Amazon Revenue Calculator, and you want to utilize the ASIN of the competitor that's closest to your product that you're going after. You put in the sales price, you put in all that information, and we have a lot of this in the Private Label Passport course as well. But in this case, after you've figured out what that profit margin is, the last thing that you have to do is factor in those shipping costs and the inventory costs on a per unit basis. And after all that's been said, you know that you're going to make anywhere from $4 to $5 per unit. So that's something else that's very, very critical. Let's see here. We can skip over that. This is no, I don't have to worry about that one. Let's see here. Product is durable and unlikely to break in shipping. This is quietly a really important one, because if you just go after something that's likely to break, or if you go after a product where someone has gotten a ton of returns, or you see that they have a lot of bad reviews because it's broken often, maybe that's an opportunity for you to prove on the quality, but you're not in a position, maybe you are, but a lot of times new sellers aren't in a position to just put a lot of money towards improving on quality unless the quality for another product is already there, and you just want to go after that one product and you're willing to spend a little bit more. But in this case, I don't want something that's going to likely break. So if I'm ordering 500 units, if I have 25, 50 units that have broken, that's a big problem, because in a lot of cases that anywhere from that 50 to 200 units ends up being your profit after you've broken even, after selling, let's say 200 to 350 units based on the total investment that you initially made in the business. So that's just something that you really need to take in consideration as you're picking your different products, both in your base market and even those that you want to sell in global markets for that matter. Let's see here. Product weighs less than 1 pound. That is an important one because that has an impact on your profit margins. So, it's not always a big piece because, you can always increase your price. But of course, that also depends on the competition and where a lot of their price points are for that matter. And let's see here. Your initial purchase can be less than 500 units. I think that's an important one just because it gives a lot of us as sellers the flexibility to make a marginal investment, give away some product and see if there's a market for that product. So you don't necessarily have to come out of pocket $5,000 or $10,000. You can come out of pocket $1,000 or $2,000 max, buy, let's say 250, 300 units, give away, let's say 50 or so and test the market. And if you start to see consistent sales, you see that you're getting about 2, then 3 sales a day. And then one day you get 7, another day you get 1, then another day you get like 6. You know that there's something that's there. And it's just a matter of figuring out all of the keywords that you need to rank for, improving on the listing, the pictures, the conversions, all those different things, getting more reviews. And then you can start building something. But you're able to do that with a minimal investment. So, based on all that I just mentioned, all this different criteria that I use personally, intuitively at least, in picking and thinking about a product for a market, both in a category market or in a global market, if I got anything that had a yes next to it, I would add that number to the side. So, if product won't need an instruction manual to use, like an ice cube tray, for example, wink, wink for those out there, or a chopping board, wink, wink, no instructional use to use it, you're going to give yourself a 3. And if it does require some sort of intuition, you give yourself a 0. At the very end, you add in all your scores. And if you get to anything that's above 76, that product is definitely a go. I think it's worth going after that particular product. If it's between a 61 to a 75, yeah, probably still a go. But, if you got something that's higher, then you may want to go after that product depending on whatever criteria you're thinking about. Whether it's you're thinking about brand building, where you think it's just a great opportunity to make a ton of money, whatever it is. Now, if there's a product that you've added up all these different scores, all these numbers, and let's say you get to about a 55, you may say to yourself, it's probably no go, probably not worth going after. There have been cases where I've found products that are probably not worth going after, but I've still gone after them. They've done okay. But this is a point when you make the decision that, okay, I've done this. I've gone through this whole process through 5 products, and I've had 3 that are sort of between a 61 and 101 of a score, and I've had 2 that are less than 60. In those cases, I would push away the ones that are below 60 and see which ones that are above 61 that makes the most sense to initially go after. And of course, anything that's less than 45, don't go after. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth taking the chance. And I wouldn't even go down that route. For me, I was dead set on my very first product in going after this one product that I really thought was going to do well, but it was sort of a trendy item. It was an item that intuitively people aren't necessarily searching for. It actually requires a little bit of explaining. And so it wasn't intuitive. Now, it was a great gifting item, but still not a lot of people are just naturally searching for this item. They're searching for something else, but it was kind of different. So you want to really think about that as you're picking your products. And for me, I've had, that was one of my failures, but it was a great learning experience because now I'm pretty good at picking products now. I mean, I think the next 6, 7 products I've picked have all been pretty much winners. They're all getting sales. They're all doing relatively well. They're doing well in multiple markets. So I like to personally use this checklist. I use it for myself intuitively, but for you guys, you can use it as a general checklist as you're trying to pick your products on a regular basis and trying to see, is this product going to make the most sense? We're going to give this to you guys for free. So anyone that wants to use it, please feel free, have at it. You can always visit privatelabelpassport.com if you want. We also have some other free training as well, but you can also take a look at this, and I think it will be very useful to a lot of you folks out there. So thanks so much for listening. Greatly appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Take care.